Joining me here at the Reagan National Economic Forum is Garry Tan, the CEO of Y Combinator. Garry, it's good to speak with you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
You're actually getting ready to take the stage here. What's going to be your message?
Well, we're going to talk about local government. I mean, San Francisco, I think, is really on the mend, and some of the story is how do we actually support technology and innovation and, frankly, the smartest immigrants in the world to come to San Francisco, for them to have housing, for their children to have great educations, and for them to actually create the future. You know, San Francisco is the city that created the large language model. OpenAI and Anthropic literally are inside, 49 square miles. It's also the city that spawned the self-driving car. So, as San Francisco goes, so goes the world. And I think it's really important to save it.
It is interesting to hear, and you're not the first person to say it to me. I've heard this from real estate developers, other folks in the tech community, that San Francisco is back. You've been very active and very in the local political scene and sort of stirring up the public discourse around what needs to happen in San Francisco.
Yeah, this week was pretty crazy. I mean, hearing that there was going to be grading for equity, pretty wild, honestly, and turning 80% into an A instead of keeping it at 90. I mean, that doesn't actually serve the kids. And can you imagine being one of the world's best software engineers, and you're moving to San Francisco to build something for 1 billion people, and then your kids go to school and they cannot learn algebra in public middle school. And so that's the kind of stuff that we just can't allow.
How much has AI turned the tide for the city?
Oh, so much. I mean, I think that it's become, sort of Athens or Rome in antiquity. If you were going to create something that could touch everyone, and you want to create sort of the next, Patrick Collison, for instance, from Stripe, he based his startup initially in San Francisco. And, again, like if local government doesn't support innovation, what that looks like is, a bad tax that doesn't actually serve the people comes in, like Prop C. And it's a gross receipt tax. So it actually drove out, Square, it drove out Stripe, it drove out Coinbase. And these are things that, just don't serve the people, and it doesn't serve society at large.
Y Combinator certainly supports and fosters innovation. What are you excited about the most right now, especially as you do get ready for your demo day?
Well, I think about 80 or 90% of the companies these days are actually built on sort of this idea of the age of intelligence, that, the best reasoning models out of the AI labs today are pushing 120 to 130 IQ, which is really crazy. I mean, it's actually very hard to hire people who are that smart that consistently in any organization. And what's happening today is that that level of intelligence is actually available on tap. Like, we can zap the rocks and just, the rocks can talk. But not only that, we're entering this new mode where the rocks can think, and now they can do things for you. That's sort of the era of the agent.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because I would imagine it's going to change what is valued in a technologist and in a human being in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the number one thing that I'm trying to teach our kids is really agency, being able to know that you can have an impact on the world, to be able to identify problems and really feel them kind of like a designer. I mean, how great is that, one of the greatest designers alive, Johnny Ive, is now Chief Design Officer at OpenAI. I mean, I'm actually really bullish for that, because that means that this is coming into the age of the designer. It's not merely about whether or not you can code. It's actually, can you, vibe code something that will actually hit things that people really want? Can you make something that people really want? And the important part is less and less the making per se, and it's a lot more like understanding what people actually want.
In terms of what people actually want and what the capabilities of AI are at this moment, where would you say we are in this phase? I mean, we've talked so much about the large language models and the open AIs and the labs that are basically creating all of these smart beings. Where are we in the process of adoption, and what do you think the next chapter brings?
I think we're early. I think we're outrageously early. This is, if it was the personal computer revolution, I think we're like 1993. Like you have computers you have spreadsheets, you have things that people are clearly using it for, but the vast majority of people are walking around and acting like, these things are just no better than the fax machine on their desk. They're still using file cabinets and typewriters, and I think that that's the golden age of building for people who want to actually start companies. Like, we are seeing a huge increase in the number of 18 to 22-year-olds in particular, who are increasingly dropping out of their computer science degrees and saying, you know what, like if I wait, I'm actually going to miss the revolution. I don't know if that's true, and we actually really hope that they stay in school. But that's sort of what's happening right now. Like, people are just not fully changing what they're doing yet, sort of in response to how powerful the new systems are.
We've seen this AI as a geopolitical issue framework manifest, and actually some more meat on the bones even this week, even with like export controls and some of the policies that are going in place. This idea of US versus China, is that the right framing? I mean,
ultimately, I think that whoever actually has the smartest and best AI in the world, that is like nuclear power. It is, one of the fundamental things that will define who's a superpower in the next 100 years. I will say that it's actually fairly important that we keep the smartest talent in the world. I'm very worried about legal immigration. Almost half or more of the IPOs sort of the last 20 years were actually started by immigrants. And for America to be someplace that could brain drain the rest of the world, that's actually a really key part of why San Francisco was the place that created this revolution of large language models with OpenAI and Anthropic, and that's also why the self-driving car happened right here in California. That's to be able to continue to be the place that everyone in the world, if you're smart, you want to come and create your startup right here in California, and ideally in San Francisco. That's where all the smartest people are congregating. The agglomeration effects are really, really profound. Like, even within our YC community, if someone decides to keep their company in the SF Bay Area, it increases the chance of them becoming a unicorn company, a company that would, be like a Stripe or a Coinbase, by 2.5x. So that is actually the one thing that you could decide to do to increase the chance of your success. And that's powerful, and that's why I think we need to protect the ability of immigrants from all around the world to come to San Francisco and to come to America and really build the future.
One of the topics that came up on stage with Jamie Dimon here is how difficult it is, de-incentivized even in some cases for some companies, some small companies, startups, to actually go public. I wonder how you see it, since you are so tapped into the startup community, and we do have so many unicorns now in the private markets.
Yeah, we're hoping that a lot more people choose to go public, but I mean, at the same time, I think there's more and more evidence that a very robust secondary market can actually be a good release valve as well. I mean, I think going public is sort of the ideal way to do it. There are companies like long-term stock exchange that are out there that should sort of help startups go public without giving up the control that they're worried about. The hardest part about going public is that you fear that your investors are just not going to support you, and especially at the sort of extreme moment of transformation. Let's say you have a cap table that says, you know what, we're going to optimize for short-term profits over long-term gain. Well, that might be the worst possible mistake if you spent 10, 20 years of your life building this thing, and you can't make the sort of capital commits or the kind of R&D hiring that you want to be able to do. So I think there are things like long-term stock exchange, or really lots of other methods to try to allow that to happen. I think super voting shares for founders is still a pretty controversial thing, but if you want more people to IPO, I think actually that's sort of something's got to give, and we've seen that in the example of lots of companies, having the founder in charge makes that company so much more valuable.
Anything else you're watching, either across the private markets or across the tech scene, that we haven't touched on?
I guess the super interesting thing that's happening right now that people might not be tracking, but they really should, is, and this might be in the weeds, but I mean, this
Bring
is the
it.
stuff that's really
I
important.
love going in the weeds.
Yeah, I mean, only in even like sort of the last 50 or 60 days, Gemini from Google just released 2.5 Pro with 2 million token long context. And so the way to think about that is the rocks can talk, they can think, and now they can think at a level that even humans cannot sort of keep in their head. And even at YC, there are all of these use cases that suddenly are possible now. In particular for code gen, I mean, as the context windows get bigger and bigger, a lot of people who have really big old code bases, they might say, oh, vibe coding isn't for me. But I think that that's something to watch. Like as context windows get to 10 million or 100 million tokens, actually that could read the whole code base, and across the enterprise, like it could read all of the emails you've had with everyone in your organization for 10 years. Like I think that we're truly at this sort of 1993 moment for AI, because think about how limited computers were. They could barely do things that were really that useful. Like people thought of them as glorified typewriters back then. And now, like, look at how we think about technology and computers today. I think we're about to go into that revolution now, and so you should pay attention. And token length today is sort of like, 640K of RAM on a computer back, 20, 30 years ago.
It's pretty incredible. All right, we'll watch it. Garry Tan, Y Combinator. It's great to speak with you.
Great to see you.